In my early 40s, my wife gifted me this CZ 550 Magnum in 505 Gibbs, and I had the opportunity to take it to South Africa to hunt a buffalo in one of those Kruger adjacent reserves. And at that point, I was in great health, no issues, and I made the decision to use the heavy 4 caliber Norma ammunition, the African PH series, and we'll take a look at that in just a second. But I want to just talk a little bit about the rifle, because the 505 Gibbs is a monster caliber, and we're talking about how and what was done to make this caliber a little easier to shoot. So first and foremost, let's just look a little bit at how the rifle was set up. For the hunt, I actually used an Aimpoint Hunter red dot sight, and that was a very accurate, very easy to find the target, because it's a true 1x. It has zero magnification. It did very well on the gun. After that hunt, I actually had a red fiber optic put on the front end, and I had a New England custom gun peep sight put on the back, or the large ghost ring put on the back, and I really enjoy shooting it that way as well. But I kept the Aimpoint because it really performs well with this rifle. Now, just on the weight of this rifle, it's just short of 11 pounds with nothing in it, and my wife did splash a little bit. It's got really nice wood on it, as you can see, and it's got a really nice straight stock, so that helps with the recoil. It does have a mercury recoil reducer in there, and that helps a little bit as well. And yeah, overall, easy gun to carry, no issues with the rifle at all. It functions perfectly. It looks really nice. But very soon after that hunt, I had some neck surgery done, and I had to readjust the way I looked at ammunition and the way I looked at shooting this rifle. Now, the one item you will notice that is absent on this gun that wasn't considered at all to mitigate recoil is a muzzle brake or ports. And I just firmly, it's a personal belief, I just don't like those things. I don't think they look nice, and they create an awful amount of noise. And I was just not prepared to consider that for this specific rifle. Now, the ammunition used on that original buffalo hunt, as I said, was these African PH rounds, and I used two different types. I used the 600 grain bullet. It's a full metal jacket from Woodley. And this bullet actually has a 600 grain bullet, leaving the barrel at 2100 feet a second. So the recoil on this is pretty substantial. I paired that with the 600 grain protected point soft nose from Woodley. And I mean, they performed really well. They did a good number on that buffalo. I only fired 2 shots at that buffalo. The first shot was this soft. It was slightly quartering towards me, went into the chest cavity, did a lot of damage, and that buffalo bled out within 35 yards. But as it turned to run and got up again, I put a solid into it. The solid went in between the last 2 ribs, went through the liver, it went through one of the lungs, and was recovered from the opposite shoulder, went through the shoulder scapular bone, and was found between the skin and the bone. And this bullet did flatten a little bit. It did crack a little bit, but man, once you find it on the opposite side of a buffalo, when did it fail? And that buffalo was dead. So from that perspective, I think it met the objectives of having a successful round or a successful set of ammunition, that could put a buffalo down. Now, I had to make some changes, because after the surgery, the neurosurgeon told me, listen, dude, you've got problems with those intervertebral discs. They're going to start giving you issues as time goes along. So figure a way out to manage and limit recoil on these guns. And seeing that there was nothing really left to do on the rifle, I started looking at, okay, what can I do with regards to ammunition? Is there something I can do to find a more applicable lower recoil hunting round? And was there something I could do to find really good practicing rounds that would make the recoil much more manageable?
I set out to achieve two very different things. Firstly was to find a hunting load that was recoil friendlier than the 600 grain Norma ammunition. And I eventually decided on using Swift A-frames. They make a 535 grain soft point Swift A-frame bullet, and I loaded that with Rotumbo powder, and I started and I just kept it at the start load, which is 122.7 grains out of the Swift reloading manual. Now they give the velocity as 1950. I was 100 feet light on that in the rifle that I was using. So this ammunition shoots at 1850 feet a second, and I'll show you later. It's perfectly fine. I have a target that I set up at 85 yards. They're accurate, they group well, and I feel very comfortable taking a 535 grain bullet at 1850 feet a second after a buffalo. And it really gives much milder recoil than the 600 grain Norma at 2100 feet a second.
What follows are two shots with the hunting ammunition. As you can see, the recoil is still there, but it is a way better than the 600 grain at 21 feet a second.
So having found a pretty decent hunting load, it still didn't solve my issue on finding loads for practice. And in 2016, Terry Wieland published a very nice article in the Rifle Handloader magazine, and that solved my problem. The article really was about, using lighter loads in big case calibers, and it was a very simple procedure, but it works tremendously well. So basically what you do, if you turn the pages and you go through this whole deal, basically it works as follows. Is you take and you source and buy a good gas checked lead cast bullet. This is a 545 grain bullet, cast in 505 Gibbs. And what you do is you establish how deep this bullet will seat in your case, and once you have established the depth of that, you cut the case at that level. So here's the case cut at the level where the bottom of this bullet is going to sit. You then use accurate 5744, and please note this article, this only applies to accurate 5744 as propellant. You then pour that accurate 5744 up to this level in the case. You weigh that charge, and in my case with this 505 Gibbs, this was 142.8 grain of accurate 5744. You then take that number and you multiply it by 40% or by 0.4 to get your start load. So in my specific rifle, that came to 57.12 grains, and I just rounded it up. So I loaded these practice loads, and I shoot this gas check lead bullet with 58 grains of accurate 5744, and this is a very mild recoiling round. My son can shoot this rifle, and it actually, the velocity on it is not bad. It's leaves the barrel at about 1720, so it's maybe 80-90 feet a second slower than my hunting loads, but very easy to manage the recoil, cheap to shoot, and an absolute pleasure to work through that gun. So I think with these two, I've managed to at least ratchet the recoil down in that 505 Gibbs where I can shoot it, enjoy it, and it may not really be a big threat to my intervertebral discs. So I think there is hope. If you want to look at this and source this book, they do back copies. So if you go to a hand loader, this was the one, February, March 2016, number 300, and you can source this back copy. It's got the whole recipe in there, and it actually covers a couple of different calibers in this deal. It's got it for 450 Ackley, 500 Jeffrey, the 505 Gibbs, 500 Nitro. So a very handy piece of information. And as I says, it only applies with accurate 5744, but it gives you an option that is cheap to run and really manageable to shoot.
Well, let's fire 2 of those practice rounds, and I want you to pay specific attention to muzzle lift and then the recoil, obviously the pushback on firing those rounds. Really pleasant to shoot, easy to do, and works very, very well. So this was my setup for shooting that 505 this morning. I used the shooting sticks on the right, a baffle in between, and then a lab radar to get the velocity on the shot. And then I just used those open sights to shoot at the buffalo target over there. And I'll walk up close to it and show you where the 4 shots landed. Well, and there we have it. 4 shots on the buffalo, 2, I'm gonna say, hunting loads. 535 grain Swift A-frames and 2 practice loads, the lead cast bullets, and I'll take full responsibility for that one shot that was pulled a little bit to the right and below. But I think fair to say that you know, we've accomplished what we set out to do, get some hunting loads that shoot at the same point of impact as the practice loads. Good enough on that open-sighted ghost ring sight rifle. And I think with a little bit of work, a little bit of practice, it should be completely fit to go hunt another buffalo.